What's going on, guys? We are here again for another Round the Hearth with today. I see his name is Zandu. His name is not Zandu. His name is Colin and Adam from the Planar Crossroads, as well as on my end, myself, my wife, and we got Donald. Today we are talking about how to make encounters for, I believe, the sea. We talked about a lot of creatures last week on Planar Crossroads, but I think we're on like 2 to 4. Is that right, Adam? 2 to 4?
Yes, we are on CR 2 to 4. Now, next week, we're probably going to bump it down. If we have one next week, it'll probably bump it down to just 2 CRs at a time. But
Okay.
yeah.
So we do like
2
5
to,
and 6, 7, 8.
yeah, it'd be 5 and 6 next time. But 2
Okay.
and 4 this time.
All right. So I will. I'm going to go ahead and I'll take the floor first, I guess, as far as our encounters go, because Joe isn't with us. Joe's having internet problems. But last week on In a Planar Crossroads, he talked about a lot of. I don't remember the exact names of the monsters, but like doppelgangers and mimics and stuff, basically. So what I'm thinking for like when we're building an encounter at 2 to 4, this is kind of where, depending on your party, we can kind of start to like take the gloves off, kind of start really like scaring the poop out of them, basically. And a great way to do that, like Joe would say, if you see right now, is using things like doppelgangers that can become the PCs, can become the NPCs, can become everything around them, and just like bring them into a sense of security kind of thing until whenever you're ready for it, you can just like lift the wool up. But to make sure they stay there and to get them where you want to get them, again, my favorite monster at this CR, mostly because I played one from level 1 to level 32, a centaur, or anybody who is capable of having enough feats at CR 2 to 4 to perform spirited charge, is like we can use this to herd our PCs pretty much wherever it is we want to go with them. Talked about this last week for those of us who aren't aware. Spirited Charge says when I'm mounted and I'm using a lance, I do triple damage instead of double. So if I have 18 is my strength score and I have power attack, then I'm doing that's plus 9 damage. Yeah, so if I'm on 1d8 plus 9, even 1d8 plus 1, that's 9. That's 27 damage thrown around if I roll minimum. And I wouldn't necessarily, unless the party is like 5 barbarians with 20 con, I wouldn't necessarily just, oh, okay, we're level 2. Here we go. Spirited Charge, you're dead. But around this point in time, usually your parties will have something, some kind of like NPC, or maybe if it's a game where like the animal companions are there but less important, to start weaving them into the story, into the like city of doppelgangers and mimics and stuff. What I would do is I would take probably no more than like 2 or 3 of either. You can do it, I prefer to do it on a centaur, because the question of like the mounts will save, the question of the mounts hit dice, even like we can turn ride checks into acrobatics checks if the centaur like is jumping around through forests and stuff, and go even farther than that if it has ranger levels. I didn't think about this last week, but if it has ranger levels, it can still take mounted combat style, still have all those feats, but also have woodland stride. So the underbrush doesn't bug him anyway. And what we do is we just like spend about 15 minutes. The party is conversing with their favorite NPC, whoever that happens to be, whoever they like resonate the most with, and then suddenly like a lance blossoms out from the other side of his chest, and here come all these centaurs. They probably have a native language, I forget off the top of my head, but just like screaming in their native language and like herding the party into this town. And the reason we do this, again, is like, I'm a blatant min-maxer, I'm not gonna lie, and this is a good way to like slowly introduce these really powerful game mechanics without necessarily like, oh, you're playing a d6 hit die, I'm going to charge you. Does this hit? You're dead. Haha. But they still see, and like, don't be afraid, I guess, to break down the math, show them what's going on, and explain exactly like this works because this, but do it again on an NPC, and then keep these guys around and like say the village is bordered by some kind of forest on all sides, and the centaurs just kind of hang out in the forest, and like should the party decide they want to leave, or like if somebody like gets wind of the fact that there's mimics hanging out and doppelgangers, and I think darkstalkers were discussed. I don't entirely remember, but it was like a lot of mimic stuff essentially. And the party tries to like, we're going to go back to this town and get help. Leave those centaurs there to just like to deter the party and have that threat of a mounted charger in a terrain where he is probably going to excel to keep them. I hate to use this word, but to keep them on the railroad and keep them into this story you're trying to build with mimics. I think I've rambled enough about how that one goes, so I'm gonna let the floor go. Let's hear Donald. Yeah, let's see what you would do for an encounter at this level, buddy.
I did plan a encounter out. This is a CR3 monster. So by this point, most characters would begin to get some of their fun class features by this point. So begin to cast second level spells. So the monster I'm going to be picking, it is a vampiric mist. This creature is quite unique as it is like a air elemental type of monster that appear vampiric and undead. So this is a nice twist to show not all creatures can be harmed by the normal tactics, such as using normal tactics to kill undead. So a normal way how you would use a vampiric mist is to have the mist take form, being a bloody mist, in any environment surrounded by undead. And if you have good aligned heroes, being a paladin, cleric, and of that nature, that use all of their attack undead abilities to kill them quicker, such as Smite Evil and Channel Energy, it's not going to be as effective, except for the Smite Evil. So this is a nice way to treat the players to a higher monster you may use at the higher levels, to show this is how you kill some of the higher powerful undead, but not all undead are the same. So the vampiric mist is a nice introduction monster how to kill some of the more harder to kill monsters, if you get my gist. And plus vampiric mist, if you give them extra power, such as wizards levels, they get to control certain amount of undead as well, to make things a bit more challenging, while the mist use its vampiric mist powers to drain the party members' stats and hit points, being someone like a vampire.
Isn't the mist you're talking about, isn't it from Bestiary 2, and it's just like a big old red skull floating?
Yes.
Isn't that right?
Yes.
Okay. And that's like, is it? I know of it and I've never used it, but I've always wanted to, because it's just like in its art, it looks super sweet. Is it incorporeal? Is that right?
Yes, okay. I believe so.
And isn't it? I'm just gonna bring it up because I know I've looked at it, and I know there's been several times. Oh, that is so cool! I want to use that, and it's just never like panned out for me. What's it called? Vampiric Mist.
Vampiric Mist. It's a medium-sized aberration air water creature. So it's a mist monster, which is pretty nice.
I can dig it. It's got a perfect fly speed too. Is this like? Do we just have to park it in the like player squares to hit? No, we have touch attack. Okay.
Yeah, touch attack is quite nice at this tier. Bleed and blood siphon damage, especially if you get in melee with, say, wizard, that touch AC not that great. That is a good way to teach players how valuable touch AC is. Yeah,
it is. And even like, I think bleed damage should stack, because bleed damage is like, it's a DC 15 heal check, or if I understand it correctly, any positive energy at all shuts off the bleed. But at like level 2, level 3, a D6 of bleed damage, if you roll real good, that's real scary. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, let's take the average wizard, assuming get maximum hit point per level, 18 hit points maximum. So a wizard can survive a few rounds. So a mist and just a few undead, that's a challenge upon itself. Just a Jin's touch AC. And a person that think, oh, I have the highest AC here. No. Your touch AC, it is rubbish as this area.
Oh yeah,
So
that's another reason why I prefer the touch guy or the touch guys, the Dexy characters more than the I'm in full plate with the Tower of Shield. Here we go, because touch armor class is always take it from like all the alchemists out there that are usually in this group but are not touch armor classes. Almost always a weakness on everything.
yeah, this is a unique monster at this tier that is quite powerful by itself, and it's a good introduction monster. How to kill certain monsters at the higher tier that have familiar powers of this nature: touch attack, bleed, damage,
Well,
and plus this is plus the vampire mist is a nice way to introduce a vampire down the road.
Yeah,
this is true.
If you're running like a Ravenloft type of campaign, and this thing has sense blood, and it works like scent within a mile. So say that the woods near the big baddie's near the big baddie's fortress and castle, it's got one of these 1, 2, 3 of these things living in it, and it can be brought up by a simple scratch with blood being brought. And as adventurers, I mean, bound to have some scrapes and bruises, right?
Yeah, probably.
And it gets temporary hit points.
This creature, especially if a vampire wizard use the higher level shrine spells on them, the wizard can watch the fight to examine the party, how to encounter them, and it would be a good in-game reason as well. How the vampire wizard know this as well.
This is true. But yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, it is not hard for someone to like, and especially like if you're trying to build a game like a Ravenloft setting, which I enjoy, it's not hard to say like somebody's acrobatics check to get past something fails by maybe like 1 or 2, and then here out of nowhere somebody has like scraped their arm or something, and that's enough for this thing, which I think a shark has that same like blood sense in the water. So that's, sharks are really powerful in the water. Out of the water we have these guys that can just like descend upon the party.
Also, the blood mist, vampiric mist, have sense of blood. Unless the party members treat their wounds right away, the vampiric mist can track the party using the blood trail, pretty much. Sort of
That
like
is
a
true.
bloodhound or a hellhound, in a way.
Yeah. And this is a CR where like I see it has vulnerability to fire. That's not gonna really come up at CR. Well, maybe somebody might have like a scroll of like burning hands or something.
Yeah,
But
maybe
you got one wizard could take care of it. I mean, one wizard could take this thing out easy if it knew what it was. But this is an undead, so no, it's technically an aberration. So they could get
it's
it
a
with
aberration.
knowledge dungeoneering.
It's a aberration.
So everybody's rolling their knowledge religions trying to figure out what this thing is, but it just doesn't ping because you need dungeoneering, I think, to pick an aberration like Adam's saying. And yeah, you just kind of, I can dig this thing. I don't know where I'll use it, but I'm definitely gonna put this in my like back pocket.
When it comes to monsters like this, the general rule of thumb is it's best to use them in the appropriate theme environment and the type of game as well, especially if you're going to be using a lot of monsters like these, so the players can build around doing damage to these.
Or if nothing else, they'll just be really paranoid about like putting bandages on whenever they like get moves out in the forest, because I definitely would be for sure. Also, it's worth noting this thing has Amorphous, which means it's immune to precision damage, which means it's also immune to critical hits. So I can definitely get behind that.
Your rogue won't like it.
Yeah, another world of crit fishers.
Yeah, generally aberrations and undead, unless they say otherwise, you cannot do a sneak attack or precision damage to them unless they say otherwise.
I mean, I'm pretty sure in Pathfinder, and I know I've been playing this wrong forever, but in Pathfinder, I'm pretty sure undead are like pretty much always critable, unlike in 3.5 where they were not.
You can crit.
Yeah, certain
undead,
certain monsters, it will say if you can actually do precise damage to them or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But this guy here, you definitely can't.
And I see that he has Aclo, so even if you hear these sounds in the woods and they sound like gibberish, just like this strange strange, dark, almost Mordor-sounding gibberish. But if someone actually has Anklo or starts to cast tongues, all it says is, "I smell you. I'm coming. I can smell you."
I could imagine if you want to give your player nightmares, give the creature a rope and mask and have them go around like a humanoid.
Wait, what's the rope gonna make it like? How does that make it?
Make it look like a cultist of some kind.
Or an
Oh, you mean a
executioner
rope?
and a
Okay, I heard
hangman.
rope.
Yeah, a rope and mask to make it like a cultist.
Yeah, I could see it, and then just have it like burst forth. I could dig it.
Yeah, nightmare material right there, especially in a Ravenloft style game.
Hmm. Well, we haven't heard from Adam yet. That's before we like start pinging the people who like I know Colin hasn't been here for any of the like encounter stuff, or Sarah in terms of like putting these encounters together. Let's see what Adam's got in his back pocket.
All right. Well, I tried to pick at least one
Adam's muted.
I tried to pick at least one monster for each CR. So you want my CR2 and then someone else and then CR3 and 4, or how you want to do that?
Let's just take your like. We'll take your 2 and we'll see how far it goes, and like we can just go from there.
Okay, so CR2, I actually like a creature that is a specific creature to Pathfinder, which is the Sin Spawn. And I would, as far as putting together an encounter with it, I actually wouldn't use them necessarily alone. I would put together a small party of them. And they're not, they're not stupid. They have base intelligence of 10, so they have average intelligence, a lot of them. And you're going to come in and these are CR2 creatures, and what makes them good is they're customizable, because you have envy spawn, glutton spawn, greed spawn, lust spawn, pride spawn, and wrath spawn. And each of them, they look different. They have their different flavor, but they also each kind of identify or often become a certain type of class. Envy spawn usually become rangers, glutton spawn usually become fighters, greed spawn become rogues, lust spawn become sorcerers, pride spawn become wizards, sloth spawn become clerics, and wrath spawn become barbarians. Those are almost all of the base classes. They don't have a bard, not surprising, but you only had seven that you could work with anyway.
Adam, and another monster that you could use as a basis to give class levels as well, it would be the Demon Campion. Based upon what class levels you give them, based upon what type of demon you use for the Campion, you get an extra bonus for it as well. Such for the cleric, if you go with a Envy Cleric, you increase your channel energy by 1d6. The Rogue, you get to do additional damage towards your sneak attack. Bard, your DCs go up when you're doing your performances, inspiring people, and your heroics ability by 1. And Wizards, you get to increase your DCs by 1 when it comes to certain type of magic being used.
I can dig it. And these guys are like, I didn't realize how iconic a Sin Spawn was until I started watching you guys play Rise of the Rune Lords, and like I haven't spoiled very much of that, like as far as it goes from where you guys are in terms of what's going on, but like you can't not hang out on the internet, I guess, and like you're gonna see little like bits and pieces of how like that plays into the game. And I really just saw these guys in bestiaries, like, oh, that's kind of cool. Maybe they're making a Final Fantasy X reference. That nope, not at all.
No, that Pathfinder came out before that, before not before 10, but before. What was it? They always reminded me of the upgraded or empowered vampires from that one Blade movie, Blade 2, I think it was. where their
Mhm.
chin would split, and they basically their mouth would span
They look like
open
Predator.
that. Yeah, they'd have that predator
Mhm.
mouth, but like really big, and that's what they reminded me of. So I was like, oh, that's what that is, and I never really gave them much mind until I started to see, oh, these things, they come in different flavors, and then you can put the class levels just stack really good onto those flavors. They're pretty much a PC race in the way that they're mechanically built up to be able to be edited and used and customized. So say you're not necessarily running Rise of the Rune Lords, but you're running a kind of corruption campaign, or a campaign where you got a lot of goody two shoes, but you want to give things to tempt those PCs, and these things with a base intelligence of 10, they're going to be able to formulate some plans and work with something. Now, they usually work for someone else, but even that being said, it could be a stronger sin spawn that you've just increased the CR of by giving more class levels and increasing its abilities. So it's a really good creature for having a lot of variety that you can go with. It has a bite that can get that has a corruption aspect to it, so there's lots of fun things you can do with it. Or just have a big old army of sin spawn that they have to wade through and fight. It can also be fun. But that's kind of my recommendation for the CR2.
Mhm.
I don't want to trample onto the apocalypse zombie from Sarah. I'll let her do something with that if she's going to do that, or something else.
Well, we haven't heard from Colin at all. I don't know. I don't know if Colin GMs. I don't know if Colin builds in counter. You imagine at some point somebody's probably putting a counter together. Colin, do you have anything you want to add?
You know, I do. Especially for CR2. I, like Adam, I sort of picked out one for each CR. But for CR2, I really like the Executioner's Hood. I actually haven't played against it or with it, but I just like the sound of it. It's basically just this floating sack with tentacles and teeth inside of it that drops down on top of your head. And the funny thing about it is you kill it with alcohol.
Yeah, I see that. Is that the only? Okay, that's it. Points.
Yeah.
It's not just like you have to kill us with alcohol.
I've never seen I saw that too when I was going through, and I was like, I've never seen a monster that you actually have to get drunk to kill.
Oh, what is this monster called?
It is called the Executioner's Hood from Bestiary 4. Every quart poured on it deals 1 point of damage. 4 quarts of alcohol incapacitates it and forces it. So you just okay. So there's like a little baby cloaker, and it just falls from the ceiling, and it starts to like choke people out, and you just pour alcohol on top of it, and it passes out.
Oh, that is
I love it.
a weakness towards alcohol. That is such a unique weakness.
Yeah, that is definitely different. I've never played the drunken master barbarians or monks. So there's actually as of one of the books, I can't figure out what the name of the book was called. I think it's called like the Poisoner's Handbook or like something. Is whatever like came out
Alchemist
last month
Handbook.
for like alchemists and stuff. And it came out. It's called like some things and poisons, but there's an archetype that like the alchemist gets better when he is using drugs or drinking. So I guess if you have one of those in your party, you can throw these around if for no other reason. It's, oh, we got all this stuff, haha, and then it falls over.
I know, I just love the idea of a monster being susceptible to alcohol, especially one that's supposed to be like an executioner.
Yeah, you said it, and I thought it was going to be a lot more dark than what I thought it was going to be.
Oh, the thing is, it's like super dark if you look at it, except for the weakness.
When suitable prey walks beneath it, the young lurking ray drops, attempting to engulf the creature's head and suffocate it, after which the ray can slowly dissolve the meat at its leisure. Yeah, fair enough. That is super mean. It's also amorphous too, so we can't crit it. And I forget how attacking into a grapple works. I think you can attack into a grapple in Pathfinder with 0 penalty, but if you've house ruled otherwise, or if you're playing like 3.5 rules, that makes this thing all the meaner because you go try to swing at it and you hit your friend in the chest instead of hitting it and he's bleeding, and it's all terrible.
Well, the
I
thing
can
is, it
find
could be even worse if it like lets go as soon as you're swinging at it and you just decapitate your friend.
Has a ready action to like take the withdrawal action.
Yep.
I can dig it. It is not the fastest. I mean, it's CR2.
Yeah, it's CR2, but it's
Well, that's
it's
what we're
like
at
creepy,
today.
but also really goofy, which is why I like it.
Mm-hmm. I kind of wish we could take this thing as a familiar. If I was jamming and somebody wanted to take an Executioner's Hood as a familiar, I'd allow it. Why not?
One of my favorite familiars that I had in a 5th edition game, it was the Crawling Hand.
Oh, I'd love to
It's a
have
total segue. There's a total segue, but I know there's a chain of feats in Pathfinder. I don't remember what they're called, but more or less you can chop off your own hand and then use it as a familiar.
to
So
deliver touch.
I forget what it's called.
You can really get deliver a lot of touch spells.
Yeah. I wonder what CR the Crawling Hand is. Probably somewhere in there.
It is
Now, you know-
CR1. It's CR1 half.
One
It's
more
a-
half.
You know, if you're going to have a Executioner's Hood as a familiar, the GM has to play it up where that thing is like a raging alcoholic that's just not allowed to drink, right? Oh, it's constantly cranky.
This would be a interesting encounter upon itself. A Crawling Hand, the Executioner Hood, another gag item, all fighting the party. It would be body parts or items that used to belong to a person.
We've got the hood and we've got the hand, so get like a. Oh, I think in one of the psychic bestiaries, there's like animated hearths that have come back and turned into undead. I think that's actually bestiary 6, where like the rib cage functions as the legs for like a spider heart and ribs monster thing.
Well, I mean, if
I
you're
can get behind
going
it.
for dismembered body parts type thing, you got the Executioner's Hood, you got the floating hands, then you've got the that one creature, the Pindana or Pinwana or whatever it is. It's basically a head and internal organs that float around, but nothing else. And then that,
Mhm.
yeah, that would be creepy.
Yeah, that could do it. Sarah, do you have anything you want to add for these encounters? It's okay if you don't. There was a lot of stuff talked about, and there's like, I don't even really know where to go except for like chargers are good and use mimics. So if you don't necessarily have anything you want to add encounter wise,
Charges sound bad.
yeah, they are bad for sure. It's been a while since you GM'd for CR 2 to
That's exactly right.
because you inherited a game at I think we were like 6 or 7.
7, I think.
Yeah, we were 7th.
Well, it was all over the place because apparently the previous GM promised Joe a 10th level NPC or player character or something. So I'm like, okay, sure.
Yeah, that was a mess. But so you've used goblins with it. Well, I think there were enough goblins floating around there where that was actually like the R2 encounter. I think there was like 14 of them in that encounter.
Oh, yeah.
That was
Well,
like your first time ever GMing in your entire life ever.
You guys like raided like a encampment with a bunch of goblins.
Oh, no. I remember that too. That was like a year later when Joe and I decided to go murder hoboing.
And then you flew across the sky on ponies.
Yes.
It was good.
But do you have anything to add about encounters that you have done? Or how'd you build them?
Apparently the several goblin encounter was memorable.
Mm.
So, some bunch of low-level opponents that can be powerful, I guess.
Yeah, they can. If you take something like, and I'm probably going to say this until about CR like 7, orcs in Pathfinder, even just like the vanilla orcs out of the book, is still swinging for 2d4 plus like 4 or 5. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure, but even then they have a 15% chance to at least automatically hit, probably do double damage, and they have ferocity, which means they have extra hit points. So if nothing else, like she's saying, you could definitely take just all the CR, like, 1/2s, roll them up until you have a CR2 encounter and throw those at people. As far as, like, I haven't really GM'd any really low encounters in a long time that were just, like, troops and stuff. But again, Joe was talking about how to use, like, mimics and doppelgangers and stuff like that. There was one time somebody crit a whole bunch and it screwed the story up. But like I was saying, you have this town that you run people into, and you have the army of centaurs essentially just, like, circling around, and if a player tries to, like, sneak out, you just chase him back in. Let me actually break out one of these guys. I think a doppelganger falls in the CR range, I think.
Doppelganger, it's like a CR2 monster, I believe.
CR3. Okay, cool. So what we do with these guys, again, now that we've taken our party and we've lured them where we want to take them, the doppelganger can assume the appearance of a specific individual. And though I'm not a huge fan of also railroading, but I'm also not a huge fan of, like, if the party wants to split, I think it's up to the GM to make the encounters appropriate. And I think it's up to the GM to, like, not forbid it. Unless, like, okay, there's one point where I'm GMing for 8 people, and if they want to split 8 ways, we're going to get nowhere fast. But if it's, like, a party of 4, 5, 6 people, and 2 people want to go this way, I think the GM should reward that. I think the GM should make the encounters appropriate. But to contradict myself, in some kind of setting like this, if 1 or 2 players decide to, like, disappear off into random part of the town, and they get hit by doppelgangers, and the doppelgangers replace them, it gets a different aspect of it's almost like converting them to your side at the table, I guess, for lack of a better way to say it. And oftentimes I've done this, but I've never found a good way to I have players that can't metagame, and I'm very thankful for them, but I've never found a good way in person to communicate to someone that, okay, now you are a doppelganger. But that's the idea here, is we just, like, wait till the rogue disappears, doppelganger descends upon him, doppelganger assumes the, like, perfect appearance of him after killing them, if that's the kind of game you're trying to do. And, like, I'm not a huge fan of killing players unless, like, we are being super serious, but maybe just, like, knocking out the players and tying them up. And then in the age of technology on Roll20, it's super easy. You just whisper to somebody and, hey, you're the doppelganger now, haha. But, like, if you're playing in real life, whether you text somebody or, like, slide them a note or like, bring them over into the other, or I remember there was a little bit of time where we were playing at a comic book store, and the GM at the time, like, if you wanted to do something secret, he would take one of the people and he'd, like, walk to the other side of the store, and something's up at that point. You're like, hey, wait a minute, something's going on here. I don't trust this. But if you don't have metagaming players, or you can find another way to, like...
I mean, we didn't have metagaming players at the time. All the players in that game were 12.
They weren't 12, they were, like, 14.
Okay, yeah.
Now we sound creepy on the internet, but it's an entirely different story. What I'm driving at here is, if we use these guys to, like, infiltrate the party and have the party play them, not only does it kind of, like, it takes a little bit of the load off us, it also it makes for different role playing, and it can make for more challenging role playing if somebody's not used to playing the bad guy, or even, like, a bad, quote unquote, alignment. Even though I'm pretty sure these guys, as we discussed, yeah, they are true neutral, but I mean, true neutral can do terrible things.
The thing with doppelgangers, you can have them be anyone when it comes to alignment. So that's the best thing about them.
Yeah. And they can pretty much do anything. What's their disguise check? You want plus 29 when using change shape. Yeah, okay, the players aren't going to sniff this out.
No.
The only way to beat that is unless a player built to know if a person is a clone or a doppelganger, they cannot tell.
Yeah.
I think the only way you can beat it, like, and it's super metagamey to know this, well, maybe not necessarily. The GM can decide what is metagamey is or table, but I see that a doppelganger is immune to sleep, so I guess, like, if one of the players is really eager to take watch all the time and never, like, you never catch them sleeping, that might be a way to know. But I don't know.
Well, I mean-
most CRs, I really like stuff like this.
Something else
another-
that you can do, I mean, because doppelgangers are going to know how they're found out. They'll know how people find them out. So if a smart doppelganger is what you're having this player play, they can say, "Oh no, I was able to buy this ring in town really cheap. It was the last one they had. It lets me stay up all the time, so I don't have to sleep."
How's my bluff? Plus 13. Yeah, okay, sure. At this level, that's pretty good.
Well,
in a game,
why would your party not believe you though? That may have
That
been,
is true.
and you could say, "No, that's what the GM told me. That's what he kept me aside. He didn't want you guys muscling in and buying it off before I got there, because I went out by myself."
That is true.
Tommy, in a game, another way that me and the players we found who was a doppelganger and not. One of the other players was a alchemist, so he made a poison to know who is a doppelganger or not, and ask them to, "Why don't you have a drink?" Or he would put a poison pill into a drink, so whenever the doppelganger drinks it, he is knocked out, so you know it's a doppelganger. And also, if you know the player or the NPC well enough, you can tell it's a doppelganger as it is not acting what the person would normally act.
That is true. As a GM, I think like if they have a friendly, helpful, almost like Gandalf NPC hanging out with them, and then suddenly he's acting kind of strange, I think the GM should be maybe not necessarily kick the sense motive door wide open for the players to sniff it out, but have a little bit in there. Maybe I only ever really did this once, and it was in the wrong group to do so. It was really the wrong group to do so for sure. But what I do now, if I plan on doing this, is I'll look at everybody's character sheet and I'll record their sense motive, their perception, their maybe their will save sometimes. But what I'm driving at here is I'll make secret rolls for them. So because they're always going to have that initial hey, wait a minute. But if you say make a sense motive check, they're instantly going to be on to something is going on here. Again, some players will get super upset. "Oh, you made a check for me," but probably those players aren't the players you should be playing with in the first place. That's an entirely different tangent.
Don't forget about Kevin Howard.
Yeah,
This natural 20 hiding it behind his hand.
classic Kevin Howard.
My experience using doppelgangers and certain spells at the higher tiers is they can be game breaking or ruin a game unless a GM knows how to handle them properly.
That is true.
I think that something that can be done about that is, as far as the metagaming part is harder to get over, but if you can get the way I do it is understanding what their passives are, like your passive perception or your passive sense motive.
That means if they rolled a 10, right?
Yeah, it's like taking 10. If you spend 10 minutes around this person and you're, and you do with your party members, you would have effectively rolled a 10 just hanging around, not doing anything. And that's what you would know as your baseline for being able to sense this doppelganger out. So with the doppelganger, unless they've got a plus 20, or what is it, have to be a plus 29, because the doppelganger's passive roll would be a 39, wouldn't it, if it's a 20-something? 29?
Yeah, it would.
So, they'd have to be able to beat that passively. Now, if they say, if the player or the character, if the player and the character, I should say, are something doesn't seem right, just by the interactions, then it's well, you can always make a check if you want to, or what do you want to do?
That is true, yeah.
And a lot of the times, if they don't succeed over the amount, you just say, something doesn't seem right. You don't tell them what, and or going back to the example of maybe they do a sense motive about this person getting the ring, and they make the sense motive check. They're making the sense motive check about the ring. They're not making the sense motive check about why you're not sleeping. So the thing they're disbelieving is that the ring doesn't make them not sleep, or that they didn't get it the way they thought that they're saying they did. And that's what you can say. You give them the information that they asked for, not necessarily the all pertinent information, because that's where you get to keep the mystery, is by not giving all the pertinent information, but the information they ask for.
Also, to add on, for the ring example, unless if the party want to follow all of the breadcrumbs that the doppelganger says to the party, that is another way to find out.
That is true. So if we are running low on time, let's go back. I'm going to start from my point of view and go up. Colin, do you have anything you want to add? I see you do. Go ahead. You have the floor. Go.
Go,
Awesome.
go.
2 other really cool creatures. It's a CR3 and 4. I messed it up in the chat, but whatever. A phantom fungus is a really cool CR3 because it has basically greater invisibility, but briefly turns visible whenever it attacks. So there's ways to defeat it. You have to basically ready an action and wait for it to attack someone else and strike once it attacks.
Thank you behind it.
And
It's
let's hope
just
you're
a
not
fun
spread
strategy
out.
thing,
Yeah.
right? Then the last one is a CR4, just briefly. There's nothing really special about it as far as stats go. It's just a really cool-ass dragon. And that is the Crystal Dragon, very young Crystal Dragon as CR4, or you could go CR2 and do a Crystal Dragon Wormling, but it's still... That would be a really memorable encounter just because it's a really flashy kind of dragon, you know?
Yeah. I actually remember there were a lot of dragons killed in that campaign, but I'm pretty sure Mahariel killed a crystal dragon at some point, did he not? You were jamming for him.
Crystal Dragon? I think so.
Because I remember the character had lost his memory, and Mahariel is the black dragon disciple for whom my channel is named, and this is like the second incarnation of him. Yeah, and I'm playing him as though he has no memories, so I'm playing him. Hi, cat. I'm playing him like a black dragon would. I'm gonna kill everything around me that is bigger than me, and then I'm gonna leave it in a lake until it rots, and then I'm not gonna eat it because I'm just an elf and it will kill me. But I definitely remember fighting the crystal dragon. I remember a lot of dragons, but the crystal one did stand out because, like, you're right, it is super pretty, and I like using dragons that are not chromatic or metallic, I guess the best way to word it, because we've had those forever, and it just gets kind of boring. It's the same old song and dance over and over, whether or not it might have some extra stuff. It's just like, oh, there's that again. It's got chlorine gas breath weapon, oh no.
Yeah, it's just a really cool dragon. I love the description of it. It'd just be fun. That's all.
Yeah, I agree. So as we move up the line real quick, I'm going to add to mine, in addition to this is the point again where we can start messing with the players with sense motive checks, and this is around the time where some of the martial classes will begin to have spirited charge. I'm going to add, it's not necessarily a monster because we can do this on fighters, rangers, cavaliers. Horse archery is really strong all the time, especially if you're the GM, because you're always going to have line of sight. And I say this because, for one, arrows give you a lot of think Hawkeye, a lot of tech uses, I guess, lack of a better way to say it, for if you want to shoot in a necklace of fireballs, maybe not at CR4, but that kind of thing. Also, unless the player has an increased move speed, they're not going to catch you if you have a mount and you're riding back, firing at them as you go. Some of the attacks will probably miss if your horse is running at low levels and you're rapid shot full attack, but some of them are going to hit, and again, they're never going to catch you. So what you do is and again, use with caution, don't kill your players. This is not me telling you to just kill all your players to death.
Kill him.
But
Shoot
you
him
just
now.
historically, this is called the Cantabrian Circle. What you do is the unit they essentially just form a big circle and think like a wheel rolling, this kind of thing. And as we don't have a grid, but imagine like the PCs are above the wheel, and as the horse archers that make the wheel come up to the top of the wheel, they fire, and of course you don't have to worry about the reload mechanic in Pathfinder, because on a bow anyway. And just like as the wheel turns, these guys are reloading, and as they come up, they shoot, and the effect is like somebody else is coming up and ready to shoot over and over, and it creates a steady fire of arrows. By that same token, we can also like surround the players with horse archers and just fire into them. And again, even if you I don't know if it exists, but you are the GM. You have the power of hand wavium. You can make whatever happen that you want. Have them like fire an arrow that explodes like Team Rocket style into a net and like catches the players, and then you can take them wherever you go. But I'm starting to ramble because I really like horse archers. Adam, you got anything else you want to add?
I actually have, let me see. I've got one for CR3 and then one for CR4. So for CR3, I wanted to highlight again, because we talked about him before, Spring Hill Jack. He's from Bestiary 4, I believe. And he just, I like his picture in Bestiary 4, and he's just a surprisingly strong, I guess I would say, or interesting creature to use, because he's not very, his AC 16, his hit points are 26. He's not going to be something, he's a CR3, he's not going to be something that's super challenging right off the bat, but he has a constant feather fall and pass without trace, and he has pass wall once a day. So he can move around really good, and he's called Spring Hill Jack for a reason, because he gets a plus 16 to his acrobatics while jumping, and he has something called Vault, which is Spring Hill Jack can jump up to 20 feet vertically or horizontally in any combination as a move action without provoking attacks of opportunity. That without provoking attacks of opportunity thing can be a big deal. Because say that this particular Spring Hill Jack that you're facing, he's getting tired of this barbarian wailing on him, so he jumps up 20 feet into a tree or onto a ledge of a house or the roof of a house, and he then uses his breath weapon, which is a 15-foot cone of 2d6 fire with a reflex save of 14, so not really high, and he can use it every 2d4 rounds. So it recharges, and he gets sneak attack, and he has a frightening gaze, but the will save for that is a 13. So he's just a really versatile creature, and he is chaotic evil, but he's a fae too. He's a small fae, and chaotic evil fae will sometimes just do things or make deals that they just feel like making. So he might be a fun, not necessarily true enemy of a campaign, but rather an antagonist that they run into occasionally that just gives them trouble for some reason.
I can get behind it.
A monster that is pretty useful at CR4, which is another fame monster, it is Satyr. It is a Satyr. This is more of a bard musical-ish monster. At will, they can charm a person. They can put a person to sleep. Plant a suggestion using the suggestion field. Summon nature allies 3 field, and then their pipes. This doesn't count towards their known spells per day. So it's a will save DC 18 against the charm person's spell, field sleep, or even the suggestion spell being used based upon which one the satyr want to use. And
yeah, satyrs are super powerful for sure. I've kind of like somewhere in my back pocket have a satyr PC race, but that's Adam. Did you have one more? I think you said one, and you had one more CR monster.
Yeah,
there, right?
the satyr. It's just like most monsters. It only take a natural 1 for something bad to happen.
Donald, wait your turn. Adam, go.
Okay. So the last thing, the mimics are always good. Having a big, huge mimic, having an entire dungeon being a mimic, that's one thing. But the one I wanted to highlight in CR4 was I'm not even sure how you would pronounce this creature's name. It is a Shrenzix. Let me spell it. Shazrix or something like that. Shriezix. An easier way to think about these creatures, they are the Mirkwood spiders from Lord of the Rings. They're not they're not powerful enough to be the spider that Frodo and Sam encounter. They're not Shelob. They're her children, and they move to the Mirkwood. Well, these are oversized, 8-legged monstrosities of a creature. They've got a poison with their bite. They've got a fear of fire, so it definitely fits them lore-wise. And they have a slowing toxin that they can use, and it's in their webs. And if I remember right, something like that was also with the Mirkwood spiders. But if you're running a Lord of the Rings campaign and you're trying to figure out what type of creature you're supposed to put into Mirkwood to be the spiders, these are the spiders. They work really well, and their web is they get a +8 to range, and the DC's 14, so it's not crazy high for that particular one. But they're still really good creatures to use if you're going to do that. Plus, they fit my little might vermin lord idea, so I didn't want to leave that too far behind. And they're in bestiary.
That is true. I can dig it. These guys also have ferocity, and that's probably my favorite special ability something can have, just for the terms of I have an extra, what's my comm on a Lord of the Rings spider. That's what we're calling it. I can't say it either. We've got 12 con. Okay, so that's basically just I have 12 extra hit points, and I have a climb speed, so I can probably get away from you. And these guys have regeneration too, so basically that's just 12 extra hit points. And if you didn't hit me with fire, I'm going to stabilize. I was not aware of these guys at all. That is super gnarly. What size are we? Medium? Okay, yeah, I can get behind these guys. I'm going to spell it again one more time for the party. Shriezix. I can get behind it for sure, yeah. What were you saying, Adam?
My little mite, he upgrades his mount later on in his campaign to be a Shriezix, or whatever it is.
Shriezix sounds right. Shriezix. Lord of the Rings spider.
Yeah. Mirkwood spider.
Yeah, for sure. Sarah, do you have anything else you want to add for encounters at CR 2 to 4? Around the time players are getting that second hit dice and starting to they've survived level 1.
At this point in the game, you have a lot of access to a lot of exciting stuff, iconic stuff, Donald mentioned satyrs, and we talked about zombies, and I think last session and this session we talked about dragons.
Yeah, this is where we start hitting wormlings and pseudo dragons and stuff too.
Especially with newer players, you can really wow them with stuff like zombies and dragons, and goblins and all kinds. There's all kinds of iconic encounters you can come up with that'll make the game pretty exciting.
Yeah, we definitely spent 2.5 hours on honorable mentions of exciting stuff.
Oh yeah.
Well, if you have nothing else to add, we will send it to Donald for the tail end here. Nothing else to add, Hunter?
Yeah.
Yes, nothing else?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Donald, take us out.
The satyr. This is one of my favorite monsters from a human history lore and in games term. They can be anything that you want them to be. A lonely soul musician are the NPC or a PC monster race that is a bard pretty much. And Satyr, if you get them mad enough, they can potentially ruin a party future by causing harm, especially if they choose to be a bard and take a human form and be a troublemaker for the party, such as being a rumor maker. And plus, satyrs, just like their female counterpart, the nymph, they are a very sociable creature you can use easily in any setting.
Yeah, Fae are, and maybe this is just because I've had it in my head forever, and I got to play it with Aiden in that one shot. I've had it in my head. I wanted to play a Fae Lancer riding on like a raven or something, but I think Fae are probably my favorite typing. Yeah, my favorite typing to like use, because a lot of people will just think, oh, it's a wee little fairy. Haha. There are a lot of really scary Fae out there. Like all the CRs you have. Like we were talking before with the mites. I think those are Fae, aren't they?
Fairy pixies, you don't want to mess with them, as they can easily ruin your day, especially a pixie that have levels and a caster and put a curse on you.
Yeah, for sure. These guys, can they change form? You said something about that.
The Satyr, if you give them bard levels.
Oh, then it can. Okay, I see.
Yes, so they can fit in any setting pretty much. And
a DC 18 will save at levels at CR 2 to 4 is not set in stone. Someone's gonna fail that, especially who has a bad will save?
One, yeah.
Alchemist has a bad will save, I think, which is weird. Fighters have bad will saves. Barbarians have bad will saves sometimes. Yeah. It's like they're gonna get there, and I also like when I'm building my encounters. I don't do this necessarily. I haven't done this in Lordly Caliber, partially because there's been a revolving door of players, partially because like I'm trying to tell a story more than I'm trying to kill people. But like if I'm trying to put stuff together for like a really optimized encounter, the first question I'll ask, I won't necessarily ask the player, but I'll ask myself is, what is everyone's worst save and how worse is it? And DC 18 or you fall asleep is really powerful because that puts somebody in coup de grace range. And I forget this a lot, but within 30 feet, you can coup de grace with a ranged weapon. So you just have this satyr, like I'm going to cast sleep, you fall asleep, and then my buddy who has like a javelin would work, like a short bow, and you just times 3.
Well, I mean, coup de grace, when you're talking about that save, that's going to be a pretty tough save, even at level 5, when you've got good saves all around on certain players, like Hazaha, he has a +7 to every save, but that +7 still means that he's got to roll an 11. Mm-hmm. So there's still a failure possibility in there, and he's a level 5 PC.
He is, yeah. Well, I'm sitting in an hour of recording. Unless anybody else has anything they want to add, it is about time to take it home. Anybody else got anything they want to throw quick?
Yes. CR2 to 4. This is where a GM, as long as you know the monsters and the group of players you're with, this is where you can have fun in the lower tier still, and still surprise people with the amount of monsters in this area.
Yeah, I can agree with that. This is, I feel like, and we've said it a million times, I'm going to say it that one more, CR eventually will become super arbitrary and super irrelevant depending on how your party is built. But while we're still down this low, it's still, it still matters. It's still a good guideline. And there's still, this is around the time where, that second hit dice means you can start kind of taking the gloves off as a GM, I guess. Best way to say it, yeah. And things, again, like the satyr or like charging, or even the thing that is susceptible to alcohol out of nowhere, and that is weird.
There's got to be some kind of lore behind that in real life or something, like from a legend. Or...
The Mayor of Frostford.
Yeah, okay, Sarah. Creatures. I don't want to hold the chat up necessarily while we wait for me to look this up. If anybody else has anything to add before we take it home, I will open the floor up to you guys while I mute my mic and stuff.
Colin, did you have anything else you wanted to add?
Just have fun. There's a lot of monsters out there with really unusual weaknesses that might surprise players and that you could have a lot of fun with, like the Phantom Fungus, for example.
Yeah.
Or the Executioner's Hood. It's just have fun. Not everything has to be hack and slash. There's other ways to fight creatures, and it can be very entertaining to encounter some of those things.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And if the blatant min-maxer can agree with that, I think we all can give a little ground to that one for sure.
I think there's lots of funny creatures out there, like we talked about last time, the flail snail. Kane made sure to bring that one up, and so I think it's interesting that the flail snail, even though it has an int of 5, it knows flail snail sign language and flail snail slime writing.
Those guys have their own language. Nah.
It says right there, flail snail sign language.
You did flare snail.
Flail snail slime writing. It's like a joke monster, I'm telling you. I mean, I know it's from previous editions of D&D, and they did a lot of weird stuff back then.
Yeah.
In D&D that doesn't have necessarily some logical bylines to go with it, but there's a lot of lore to go with this one. It's got habitat and society, all that type of stuff.
The good thing about using monsters from previous edition is there's some very odd and unique monsters in those books.
Yeah.
Yeah. To put it one way, this guy has been reprinted, might be the wrong way to say it, but he has additional supplements in a splat book called Misfit Monsters Revisited. So if that doesn't tell you enough, right there, I don't know what else you need, what sign you need. These guys are dorky, but I mean, if it can write with its slime, hey, great.
Yeah.
Anyway, if nobody else has anything to add, since we're sitting at over an hour of recording, and I personally have a lot of videos I got to wrap up before Christmas is upon us, I guess this is as good a place as any to sign off. I'll say next time, because I don't know, we do these things on Mondays, and next Monday is Christmas, so I'm not entirely sure who, what, when, where we are meeting.
We'll likely
probably the new year would be work best for everyone.
Yeah, you might be right. But we are on CRs 5 and 6
CR
next time. Is that right?
Yeah, 5 and 6 next time, which we're getting after 3 and 4. When we start hitting 3 and 4, we start getting into interesting stuff. So 5 and 6 next time. Lots of fun to be had.
Definitely know. I know exactly what monster I'm doing after. Oh, you guys know. But if you haven't watched Lord of the Caliber, watch episode I think it's 9. We're in 8, 9 somewhere around the time they start saying featuring in of Planar Crossroads. That's where the monster I'm talking about is coming from, and it is super fun for sure.
5 and 6 CR monsters. That is where some of the more enjoyable monsters you get to use.
Yeah, for sure. And it might not necessarily be on time, but we'll figure out how to get all the schedules together and get it to you people. Thank you guys for watching. As always, go check out our brothers in arms in bringing you all the best tabletop RPG related content. That is the Inn of Planar Crossroads. Tomorrow I have to go take another android to another nerd store to have a game reception, I guess, in Starfinder. Did not see that one coming, but hey, we'll take it. As always, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos, and go like and subscribe to the other guys because they put out better quality stuff than I do, I think, for sure. And thank you to Adam, and thank you to Colin, and thank you to my wife, and thank you to Donald for making time out of your crazy schedules to come do this with us. And we will see you guys next time.
Peace.